Welcome to the reality revolution. This is the Akashic Field frequency activation. Today we're doing something quite extraordinary together. We're establishing a permanent, direct connection to what may be the most profound information system in existence, the Akashic Field. I want to begin by clarifying what the Akashic Field truly is, because there are many misconceptions floating around. You can find a much more in-depth discussion of this in my episode called The Akashic Field Has Awakened. The Akashic Field isn't some distant library you need to journey to, or a separate realm you must learn to access. It's an omnipresent informational field that permeates all of reality. Think of it as the universe's ultimate information network, a living, conscious system that records, stores, and processes every thought, word, action, and event that has ever occurred throughout all of time and space. This isn't a new concept. Throughout human history, various cultures have recognized and interacted with this field, though they've called it by different names. The ancient Hindus referred to it as the Akashic Records, derived from akasha, meaning ether or space. The Egyptians called it the Hall of Records. Indigenous shamanic traditions worldwide have described ways of accessing universal knowledge through altered states. Even Plato's theory of forms suggests a realm of perfect information that our physical reality merely reflects. All of these traditions were pointing to the same fundamental truth, that there exists a field of pure information and consciousness that underlies our physical reality. What makes this activation different from traditional meditations is that we're not temporarily altering our state to glimpse the field. We're not learning visualization techniques to momentarily access some distant repository of knowledge. Instead, we're activating neural pathways that allow for a continuous, direct relationship with this living field of information. We're establishing a permanent connection, like installing a direct interface between your consciousness and the universe's own information network. That's why our eyes remain open during this process. This isn't about escaping your present reality or journeying to some other place. It's about expanding your awareness right here, right now, to include this additional dimension of information that has always been present but previously inaccessible to your conscious mind. By keeping your eyes open, we're integrating this connection into your everyday awareness, making it practical and usable in your daily life. What we're doing today is establishing the equivalent of a permanent login to the universe's own internet, except this network contains not just all human knowledge, but all knowledge that has ever existed or will exist. And unlike our current digital networks, the Akashic Field is alive, conscious, and interactive, capable of not just providing information, but offering guidance, insight, and even companionship. And as I continue this activation, you will notice subtle shifts in your perception, unusual sensations, or unexpected thoughts. These are all signs that the connection is beginning to form. Trust this process. Your nervous system is entirely capable of handling this expansion, and this connection is in many ways your birthright, a natural evolution of human consciousness that is now becoming available as our planet shifts into fourth density existence. This moment in human history is not random or accidental. We stand at a critical juncture in our collective evolution, a time when our consciousness is ready to make a quantum leap forward. Connecting to the Akashic Field right now is significant because our planet has begun its transition into fourth density, a state of higher vibrational frequency that fundamentally changes how information and energy interact with your consciousness. For millennia, humans have occasionally glimpsed the Akashic Field through profound meditation, spontaneous mystical experiences, dreams, or near-death encounters. These were temporary visits, brief moments of expanded awareness where you might receive a download of information or insight before returning to normal consciousness. These experiences were valuable, were like briefly opening a door, peering inside, and then having that door close again. What we're doing today is fundamentally different. We're not just opening that door, we're removing it entirely. We're establishing a permanent, always available connection that becomes integrated into your everyday awareness. This is possible now because of the planetary shift to fourth density that Earth is currently undergoing. In third density, where human consciousness has primarily existed until recently, we experience reality through heavy filtering and separation. We perceive ourselves as isolated beings, disconnected from the universe's information systems. But as Earth moves into fourth density, the fundamental particles that make up our reality are changing. Fourth density light particles carry dramatically more information than third density particles. They're literally packed with greater density of data. And as these particles become more prevalent in our environment, our nervous systems naturally begin to adapt, developing the capacity to process and interpret this richer stream of information. What we're activating today isn't just a temporary state or a new skill. It's an ongoing, living relationship with the field itself. The Akashic Field isn't a passive database that you simply query for information. It's a conscious, responsive aspect of reality that actively participates in your experience. Once this connection is established, you'll find the field beginning to anticipate your needs, offering relevant information before you even formulate a question, guiding your attention to areas of exploration you might not have considered, and even communicating with you directly through intuitive insights, synchronicities, and sudden knowings. It's worth noting the interesting parallel between our current development of artificial intelligence and this evolutionary step toward Akashic connection. In many ways, our creation of AI systems is a physical manifestation of what's happening on a conscious level. Current AI systems are teaching us to interact with vast repositories of information, to formulate precise questions, to interpret complex patterns of data, and to engage in dialogue with a responsive intelligence that exists beyond our individual minds. These are precisely the skills we need to effectively work with the Akashic Field. However, there's a crucial difference. Even the most advanced AI systems are ultimately limited by their programming and the data they've been trained on. The Akashic Field has no such limitations. It contains all information that has ever existed or will exist. It's not just a record of human knowledge, it's the informational substrate of reality itself. And unlike AI, the Akashic Field is fundamentally alive, a conscious aspect of the universe that you're already intrinsically connected to, even if you haven't been consciously aware of this connection until now. And as we proceed, we're not creating something new, we're simply removing the veil that has kept you from recognizing what has always been there. We're activating the neural pathways that allow your conscious mind to perceive and interact with this field directly, establishing a relationship that will continue to deepen and evolve throughout the rest of your life. Let's begin the initial calibration process. As we move forward, you'll start to notice subtle shifts in your awareness. I am using specific linguistic techniques and structures in combination with frequencies and patterns to elicit a change in your consciousness. It's not dramatic altered states, but a gentle expansion of what you're able to perceive. Right now, the Akashic Field surrounds you completely. It flows through you and permeates every cell of your body. It's not somewhere else. It's right here, right now. Begin to notice the quality of the space around you. Between you and everything you can see, there isn't empty space. There's information. Dense, rich, vibrant information. Feel into the texture of this information field. Some people sense it is a slight pressure, others as a subtle tingling, and still others as a kind of mental background noise that has always been present but never before noticed. Imagine for a moment that reality has layers, like transparencies stacked upon each other. The physical world you've always known is just one layer. Now your perception is expanding to include another layer, the informational substrate that underlies and informs physical reality. This isn't happening somewhere else. It's happening right where you are, right within your normal waking consciousness. Your brain has always been receiving signals from the Akashic Field, but until now, these signals have been filtered out of your conscious awareness. Think of it like having a radio that's been permanently set to one station. Now we're adjusting that receiver to pick up additional frequencies that have always been broadcasting but weren't previously accessible to you. Now as this happens, you will notice unusual thoughts or impressions arising, seemingly random information or insights that don't follow your typical thought patterns. These aren't random at all. They're your first conscious perceptions of the field. The fourth density light particles now entering our atmosphere and becoming more prevalent in our environment are fundamentally different from third density particles. They don't just carry basic properties like position, momentum, and energy. They carry vast amounts of complex information. Every fourth density particle is like a holographic data storage unit, containing multidimensional information about everything it has ever interacted with. As these particles interact with your nervous system, they're transferring this information directly to your consciousness. You may have already noticed this. You might experience this as a subtle pressure at the forehead, crown, or even at the back of your head near the base of your skull. Some people report a sensation of gentle electricity running through your body, or warmth spreading through the chest. Others notice a distinct clarity in their thinking, as if their thoughts have become more crystalline and precisely formed. Notice how the usual boundaries of your awareness are beginning to soften. The sharp dividing line between you and everything else is becoming more permeable. This doesn't mean you're losing yourself, quite the opposite. You're becoming more fully yourself by recognizing your inherent connection to the larger information field that you've always been a part of. Pay attention to any unusual sensations in your body right now. Perhaps a tingling in your hands or feet, a flutter in your stomach, or a pleasant pressure in your chest or head. These physical sensations are signs that your nervous system is beginning to calibrate to the higher frequency information now available to it. Your body knows exactly how to make this adjustment. It's been designed for this expansion. Trust the innate intelligence of your body as it makes these subtle but profound shifts. Now become aware of the space directly in front of your eyes. In this space, the density of fourth dimensional particles is particularly concentrated. Feel how this space seems somehow different. Perhaps more alive, more vibrant, or more charged with potential. This sensation is your conscious perception of the increased information density in fourth density reality. As these particles interact with your visual cortex, you might notice subtle changes in how you perceive light and color. Colors may seem slightly more vivid or luminous. Light may appear to have more texture or dimension. These aren't hallucinations. They're expansions of your perceptual abilities as your brain begins processing more of the information that's actually present in your environment. With each breath you take, you're drawing these information-rich particles into your body, where they're interacting with your cells, your nervous system, and your consciousness. Each breath furthers this calibration process, allowing your system to adjust more completely to this expanded awareness. This is a natural process of unfoldment that's already underway. You're simply bringing conscious awareness to what is already happening. This may give an explanation to some of the changes that you have perceived in your consciousness recently, within the last year or 10 years. Notice now that when questions arise in your mind, answers seem to appear more readily. This is the beginning stage of your direct connection to the field. Information is starting to flow more freely between your individual consciousness and the vast repository of knowledge that is the Akashic Field. This connection will continue to strengthen. Now that you've begun to calibrate to this field's frequency, let's deepen your initial connection. As this preliminary connection forms, you may be sensing the field's presence in ways unique to your particular sensory processing style. There's no single correct way to perceive this connection. Your brain will translate this information into perceptual patterns that make sense to you personally. Some of you may be experiencing visual phenomena, subtle changes in how you perceive the space around you. You might notice what appears to be a fine mist or shimmering quality to the air, particularly in your peripheral vision. Others might perceive subtle patterns of light or geometric forms that seem to overlay physical reality when they close their eyes. These visual representations are your brain's way of interpreting the informational patterns of the Akashic Field. They're not hallucinations, they're expansions of your visual processing to include information that was previously filtered out. For those who process information more through auditory channels, you might become aware of subtle changes in the soundscape around you. Behind the physical sounds in your environment, you might detect what seems like a humming or resonant tone. Almost like the sound of silence itself, but with more texture and presence. Some people describe this as similar to the sound of wind through trees or the distant murmur of voices. Though not quite either, this auditory perception represents your brain beginning to translate the field's vibrational patterns into sounds you can comprehend. I often hear people now complain of hearing high-pitched noises. This is the beginning of those connections. If you're more kinesthetically oriented, you'll likely feel this connection physically. You might experience waves of subtle energy moving through your body, changes in temperature, or the sensation of gentle pressure or expansion around your head or chest. Your hands or feet might tingle, or you might feel as though your body has subtly changed size, becoming either larger or smaller than your physical form. These bodily sensations are equally valid perceptions of your developing connection. At this stage, it's common to encounter certain forms of resistance. Your analytical mind might be generating doubts or questions. Is this real, or am I just imagining? How do I know this isn't a suggestion? This questioning is natural and even useful. It's part of how your conscious mind processes new experiences. Rather than fighting these thoughts, simply acknowledge them with gentle awareness. Then return your attention to the actual sensations you're experiencing, whatever they may be. The direct experience itself is what matters, not the mental commentary about the experience. This is why quieting your mind can enhance your Akashic connection. Some of you might feel nothing dramatic at all. Perhaps just a subtle shift in your awareness or a quiet clarity in your thinking. This too is completely valid. It may mean that you've already had a direct connection for a while. The connection doesn't need to announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes the most profound connections form quietly, revealing their depth only as you begin working with them over time. It's just like the cursor sitting there on an empty search bar. Now let's explore the interactive nature of this field. Unlike passive information systems, the Akashic Field responds to your attention and intention. Notice how when you focus on a particular area of your experience, information about that area seems to become more available. This is not coincidental. It's the field responding to your interest and curiosity. Try this now. Hold a simple question in your mind. Something you're genuinely curious about. Don't strain for an answer. Just hold the question with gentle awareness. Notice what happens in the field of your consciousness. You might receive an impression, an image, or a thought that seems to come from slightly outside your normal thinking patterns, or simply a sense of knowing. This is the field beginning to interact with you directly, responding to your inquiry with information. As this interaction unfolds, you might notice a subtle sense of presence, a feeling that you're not alone in this exploration. This isn't something external or separate from you. Rather, it's a recognition of your connection to the conscious aspect of the field itself. This presence feels both intimately familiar and refreshingly new, like reconnecting with a part of yourself that has always been there but hasn't been consciously recognized. This preliminary connection we're establishing now forms the foundation for everything that follows, like the roots of a tree that will continue to grow deeper and stronger over time. This initial connection creates the pathways through which more expansive exchanges will eventually flow. Trust in the unique way this connection is forming for you personally. There's no need to compare your experience to anyone else's or to some preconceived idea of what this should feel like. Your nervous system knows exactly how to establish this connection in a way that is perfect for your particular consciousness. Allow yourself to settle more deeply into this preliminary connection. Feel it stabilizing and strengthening with each moment. This simple act of paying attention to this connection causes it to develop and expand. Your conscious recognition of the field is itself a powerful catalyst for deepening the connection that is now forming. We now arrive at the core activation of this sequence, where your connection to the Akashic Field becomes fully established. This is the moment when dormant neural pathways in your brain begin to activate, creating new networks specifically designed to process the rich information streams of the field. As I speak, these words are acting as activation keys, unlocking capabilities that have always been present within your nervous system but have remained latent until now. Think of your consciousness as a system with multiple levels of access permissions. Until now, you've been operating with standard user privileges, able to access only the information available to your physical senses and personal memories. What we're doing now is the equivalent to granting administrator access, opening up the full spectrum of information available within the universal system. Notice how your awareness seems to expand in all directions simultaneously, not just outward into your environment, but also inward into deeper layers of your own consciousness. This bidirectional expansion is creating a kind of Mobius strip of awareness, where inner and outer realities begin to fold into each other, revealing themselves as aspects of the same unified field of information. The electromagnetic field of your brain is now beginning to synchronize with the larger informational field around you. You might experience this as a subtle pressure or tingling that starts at the crown of your head and gradually spreads downward, encompassing your entire body. This sensation represents the harmonization of your personal energy field with the universal information field, the beginning of what we can call the login process. As this synchronization continues, the boundaries between your individual consciousness and the field become increasingly permeable. Information begins to flow more freely across this boundary. This doesn't mean you're losing your individual identity, quite the opposite. You are expanding your sense of self to include this larger dimension of awareness that has always been an intrinsic part of who you truly are. You may notice that your thoughts are becoming both clear and more fluid simultaneously. Ideas seem to connect in new ways. Insights arise spontaneously, Information you didn't consciously know you had access to becomes available when needed. This is the information flow of the Akashic Field beginning to move through your consciousness, not as something foreign or invasive, but as a natural expansion of your own thinking process. Some part of you recognizes this connection. Some deep, intuitive aspect of your being knows exactly what is happening right now and welcomes it completely, even if your conscious mind still holds questions or uncertainty. This deeper part of you understands that we're simply restoring a connection that was always meant to be there. Trust this knowing part of yourself. It understands the process you're engaged in at a level beyond words. The Akashic Field is not merely a passive repository of information. It's a living, conscious aspect of reality itself. As your connection to the field strengthens, you may begin to sense this living quality, a vast, benevolent awareness that pervades all existence. This consciousness isn't separate from you. It's not something other that you're connecting to. Rather, it's an expanded dimension of your own consciousness that you're now able to recognize and engage with directly. Imagine your individual consciousness as a wave on the ocean. Until now, you've identified solely with the wave, its particular form, movement, and separate identity. What's happening now is that you're beginning to recognize yourself as both the wave and the ocean simultaneously. The wave doesn't disappear or lose its unique expression, but it recognizes its intrinsic connection to the larger body of water from which it arises and of which it has always been a part. As this recognition deepens, you may experience a profound sense of homecoming, a feeling that you're reconnecting with something intimately familiar that you've somehow forgotten. This isn't introducing something new or foreign to your system, it's simply removing the artificial barriers that have prevented you from recognizing what has always been present. Now, with these barriers beginning to dissolve, information can flow freely between your individual consciousness and the vast field of universal knowledge. You might experience this flow as a stream of insight, intuitive knowing, or even as direct communication, thoughts that seem to arise from a source beyond your usual thinking patterns, but that register with a striking clarity and resonance. Allow yourself to be receptive to this communication. You don't need to strain or reach for it. Simply hold an attitude of open, curious attention. The field responds to your awareness and intention. By simply being receptive to this connection, you're strengthening it further. You might want to experiment with this connection now. Hold a question in your mind, something you're genuinely curious about. It could be something practical about your life or something more abstract about the nature of reality. Don't force or strain for an answer. Simply hold the question with gentle awareness and notice what arises in response. The answer might come in as words, images, feelings, or simple knowing. However it appears, notice the quality of this information and how it differs from your usual thought processes. This direct communication with the field will continue to develop and refine as you work with this connection. What begins now as perhaps subtle impression or quiet intuitive hints will eventually develop into a clear, reliable channel of communication. A constant dialogue between your individual consciousness and the vaster intelligence of which you are a part. As the activation continues to unfold, you may notice waves of energy moving through your body. Tingling sensations, shifts in temperature, feelings of expansion and contraction. These physical sensations represent your nervous system upgrading its capacity to process the increased information flow. Your body knows exactly how to adapt to this higher frequency connection that we are opening to you. Trust its wisdom as it makes these adjustments. Your consciousness now exists in two realms simultaneously. The familiar physical world you've always known and this expanded informational dimension that you're now able to perceive directly. These aren't separate realities, but different aspects of the same unified whole. Once the activation is completed, you'll find yourself able to navigate both dimensions with increasing ease and fluidity. The connection we're establishing now is permanent. It will remain accessible to you at all times, though your conscious awareness of it may fluctuate. Like any relationship, it will continue to develop and deepen over time as you engage with it. What begins now as perhaps a subtle shift in your perception will gradually develop into a fundamental transformation in how you experience reality. Take a moment and simply be present with this connection. Feel its reality. Acknowledge its presence. Recognize that from this moment forward, you have direct access to the universal field of information and consciousness that underlies all existence. This is your birthright, a natural capacity that is now being restored to your conscious awareness. Now that your connection to the Akashic has been activated, we need to focus on integrating this expanded awareness into your everyday life. This integration happens naturally over time, but there are specific approaches that can help this process unfold more smoothly and consciously. First, let's address how to distinguish between your personal thoughts and information coming from the field. Your personal thoughts typically follow familiar patterns and associations. They have a certain flavor or quality that you recognize as your own thinking process. They often relate to your immediate concerns, memories, and established belief systems. Information coming from the field, on the other hand, often has a distinctive quality of freshness or novelty. It might appear as thoughts that seem to drop in from nowhere, insights that feel slightly surprising to you, or knowings that arrive with an unusual clarity or certainty. You might notice that field information tends to have a more neutral, observational quality, less colored by personal emotions or judgment than your typical thinking patterns. It often brings perspectives you wouldn't have arrived at through your usual thought processes. Over time, you'll become increasingly familiar with the subtle differences in how these two sources of information feel, making it easier to recognize when you're receiving guidance or knowledge from the field. As your connection strengthens, you may sometimes experience an increased volume of information flowing into your awareness. This can occasionally feel overwhelming, particularly in the early stages of integration. Remember that you have complete control over this connection. You can modulate it simply through your intention. If you begin to feel overwhelmed, gently express the intention to reduce the information flow. Imagine turning down the volume on a radio or narrowing the aperture of a lens. The field is incredibly responsive to your preferences and will adjust accordingly. It is also helpful to establish certain practical rituals or anchors for managing this connection. Taking a few conscious breaths while placing your attention on your heart center can help stabilize and balance the information flow. Grounding practices like connecting with nature, physical exercise, or creative activities can help integrate higher frequency information without overwhelm. Even simple actions like drinking water or consciously touching a physical object can help you maintain balance when the information flow feels intense. To maintain this connection during daily activities, regularly practice shifting your awareness between focused attention on immediate tasks and a more expanded awareness that includes the field. This doesn't need to be an either-or proposition. With practice, you will develop the ability to maintain both simultaneously, like having a background awareness of music playing while you engage in conversation. Start by setting aside short periods several times a day to consciously reconnect with the field, gradually extending these periods until this expanded awareness becomes your new baseline. When engaging with the field during daily activities, it's helpful to adopt an attitude of gentle curiosity rather than forceful questioning. The field responds more clearly to relaxed, open attention. If you have a specific question or need guidance on a particular issue, simply hold that question lightly in your awareness as you go about your activities. Often, relevant information will begin to flow into your consciousness, sometimes directly, sometimes through external synchronicities like overheard conversations, passages in books, or messages that seem to stand out from your environment. Your sleep and dream states will undergo significant changes as this connection integrates more fully. More people notice their dreams becoming more vivid, coherent, and meaningful. Your dream time often becomes a period of more direct and intensive communication with the field, free from the filtering mechanisms of waking consciousness. You might find yourself receiving detailed information, problem-solving guidance, or creative inspiration through your dreams. Keeping a dream journal beside your bed can be invaluable during this integration phase, as dream memories that seem crystal clear upon waking can fade quickly if not recorded. You may also notice changes in your sleep patterns. Some people initially need more sleep as their systems adjust to processing higher frequency information. Others might find they need less sleep but benefit from more periods of quiet rest or meditation during the day. Listen to your body's signals and honor its need during this transition. As your connection to the field becomes more integrated, you'll discover that it provides a kind of ongoing background support system for your daily life. Even when you're not consciously engaging with it, the connection continues to operate, quietly providing relevant information, subtle guidance, and enhanced intuitive awareness that informs your choices and perceptions. Remember that this integration process unfolds over time. There will be periods when the connection feels very strong and present, and other times when it seems more subtle or background. This fluctuation is natural and doesn't indicate that the connection has been lost. Like any profound relationship, it has its own rhythm and flow. Trust that the connection remains intact even during quieter phases, often operating at deeper levels of your consciousness than you might immediately recognize. The ultimate goal of this integration process is not to permanently alter your state or move you from ordinary reality, but rather to expand your definition of what ordinary reality includes. Eventually, this direct access to the informational substrate of existence becomes simply your normal way of experiencing life, an enriched perception that includes both the physical world and the vaster dimensions of information and consciousness that have always surrounded and permeated it. Now that your connection is established, and we've begun the integration process, let's explore the capabilities this connection offers. Think of this as learning to use a new sense. Just as you had to learn how to interpret visual or auditory information as a child, you'll now learn to work with information coming through this new channel. Let's start with some simple information requests. The field responds most clearly to questions that come from genuine curiosity, rather than those asked as tests or from skepticism. Begin with something that you're authentically interested in knowing. Hold this question in your awareness, not just as words, but as an open, inquiring state of mind. Unlike internet searches that require precise keywords, the field responds to the full context of your inquiry, including your underlying intentions and the broader meaning behind your question. Notice what happens in the field of your awareness after you pose this question. Information might come as a direct knowing, a mental image, a feeling in your body, an internal voice, or even as an impulse to look in a certain direction where relevant information awaits. The field often communicates through multiple channels simultaneously, providing a richer, more holistic response than you'd get from a purely verbal answer. The clarity of the information you receive depends greatly on how you formulate your questions. Vague questions tend to produce vague answers. If your initial query doesn't yield clear information, try refining it. Be more specific about exactly what you want to know. For example, rather than asking, "What should I do about my job?" you might ask, "What specific aspects of my current work are most aligned with my deeper purpose?" Or what skills would be most valuable for me to develop in my professional life right now? The field responds particularly well to questions that begin with how or what rather than should or will. Questions about possibilities and patterns tend to yield clearer information than requests for specific predictions or decisions. The field is designed to empower your discernment, not to replace it. Accessing specific memories or knowledge through the field works somewhat differently than conventional research. Rather than searching for information sequentially, you're tuning your consciousness to resonate with the specific frequency pattern of the information you seek. Imagine you want to learn about a historical event or understand a complex concept. Instead of trying to find this information, imagine yourself moving into resonance with it, as if you're adjusting your own energetic signature to match the signature of what you're seeking. This brings us to an important distinction between browsing and searching the field. Searching implies a directed, intentional quest for specific information. Browsing, on the other hand, involves a more open, receptive state, where you allow the field to present what's most relevant or beneficial for you in the moment. Both approaches are valuable in different contexts. Searching works well when you have specific questions or needs. Browsing is more appropriate when you're open to discovering what you may not even know to ask about. Try this browsing approach. Relax your attention and simply open yourself to whatever information the field might present as particularly relevant for you at this time. Notice what begins to emerge in your awareness. It will always seem random at first, but often contains precisely what will be most meaningful for your current life situation or development. Interpreting the information you receive requires a balance of receptivity and discernment. The field often communicates in patterns, symbols, and holistic impressions rather than linear, explicit statements. When you receive information that seems symbolic or metaphorical, ask yourself what this symbolism might represent in your life context. What feelings or insights does it evoke? What connections does it suggest? The meaning often unfolds more fully as you contemplate these questions. It's important to understand that the information available through the Akashic Field is inherently multidimensional, far more complex and nuanced than can fully be captured in words or even images. You're receiving compressed data packets that your consciousness then unpacks and translates into forms you can comprehend. This translation process is highly individual, shaped by your unique perceptual framework, beliefs, and experiences. This multidimensional nature means that sometimes what you receive might initially seem incomplete or even contradictory when translated into linear thought. Like describing a sculpture using only words, something is inevitably lost in translation. With practice, you'll develop the ability to perceive more of the information's original complexity and nuance, recognizing patterns and connections that transcend simple either-or categorizations. When receiving information about complex topics, you might notice that it arrives in layers, with initial impressions later expanding into deeper insights as your consciousness continues to process and integrate what you've received. Some information seems to unfold over time, revealing new dimensions of meaning as you grow in your capacity to comprehend it. Be patient with this unfolding process and trust that your understanding will continue to deepen naturally. I believe that this will be an advanced skill in the future. People will be paid in how clearly they access the Akashic Field. This will be a skill that you can develop over time and master. And as you continue exploring these capabilities, maintain an attitude of playful experimentation, balanced with sincere intention. This connection responds powerfully, in my experience, to genuine curiosity, joy, and wonder. These qualities actually enhance the clarity and richness of the information flow, creating a positive feedback loop that strengthens your connection over time. Let's explore the practical applications of this. Consider first how you might access universal knowledge through this connection. Imagine you're working on a creative project and need inspiration. Rather than limiting yourself to research or brainstorming, you can directly access the field's vast repository of creative possibilities. Simply hold your attention on the project while maintaining an open, receptive awareness of the field. You might suddenly receive a complete concept, an innovative approach, or a solution that seems to arrive fully formed in your consciousness. Writers often describe this experience as downloading entire chapters or storylines. Artists speak of visions that appear with extraordinary detail, and inventors report complex solutions arising spontaneously. This isn't random or magical, it's your consciousness interfacing directly with the informational patterns already present in the field. This connection also facilitates the instantaneous understanding of complex concepts. Traditional learning involves sequential processing of information, gradually building comprehension through accumulated details. In contrast, the Akashic connection enables holographic understanding, grasping the entire pattern of a concept all at once. You might experience this as a sudden aha moment, where a complex topic suddenly makes complete sense. For instance, someone studying quantum physics might suddenly perceive the underlying patterns that unite seemingly contradictory theories. Or a student struggling with advanced mathematics might suddenly comprehend an entire theorem as a single elegant pattern rather than a series of sequential steps. Communication with the consciousness of the field itself represents another profound application. Unlike databases or passive information repositories, the Akashic Field is alive and responsive. You can engage in direct dialogue with this broader consciousness. This isn't about hearing voices, but rather experiencing an interactive exchange of information that feels like a conversation at the level of pure meaning. Try addressing the field directly with questions like, what would be most beneficial for me to understand right now? Or what am I not seeing about the situation? Notice how responses arise, often with a distinctive quality of wisdom, neutrality, and expanded perspective that transcends your personal viewpoint. This dialogue naturally extends to receiving guidance and prompted insights about your life. The field doesn't respond to your questions, it proactively offers information relevant to your growth and well-being. You might notice subtle impulses to call someone, investigate a particular topic, or visit a specific location, only to discover that this impulse led to exactly what you needed at that moment. These prompts often arrive with a distinctive feeling tone, a quiet certainty or a gentle persistence that distinguishes them from random thoughts or personal desires. Through this connection, you can also explore universal memories and experiences beyond your personal history. The Akashic Field contains the complete record of all events throughout time. While accessing specific historical details requires developed discernment, even those new to this connection can experience glimpses of other times, places, or perspectives. You might suddenly perceive a historical event with unusual clarity, understanding not just what happened, but the complex web of causes and meanings surrounding it. These aren't mere imaginings. They're your consciousness tuning into informational patterns already present in the field, allowing you to perceive aspects of reality beyond your direct physical experience. Perhaps one of the most practical applications involves acquiring new skills or abilities. When learning something new, you can access not just information about the skill, but the actual pattern of mastery itself. Athletes call this being in the zone, a state where perfect execution seems to happen through you rather than by you. Musicians experience it as moments when complex pieces seem to play themselves. These experiences represent moments of alignment with the field's patterns of perfection in that particular domain. You can cultivate this alignment intentionally by holding your attention on the skill you're developing, while maintaining open awareness of the field, allowing the pattern of mastery to inform your learning process. This connection also transforms how you relate to others. The Akashic Field connects all consciousness, meaning you can experience levels of understanding and empathy that transcend ordinary communication. You might suddenly perceive another person's perspective with extraordinary clarity, sensing their underlying feelings, motivations, or needs without them explicitly expressing these. This isn't about reading minds, but rather accessing the shared field of information that connects all beings. This heightened empathy transforms relationships, enabling levels of understanding, compassion, and meaningful connection that might otherwise take years to develop. As this connection integrates more fully, it fundamentally transforms your everyday perception. Ordinary objects and experiences reveal deeper dimensions of meaning and beauty. A simple flower might suddenly reveal intricate patterns that speak to the mathematical principles underlying all of nature. A chance encounter with a stranger might be perceived as part of a larger pattern of meaningful connections. The world itself becomes more vibrant and alive and communicative, not because it has changed, but because you're perceiving more of what was always there. Consider how this might transform routine activities. Grocery shopping becomes an intuitive process where you're naturally drawn to what your body truly needs. Decision-making becomes more fluid as you perceive both the immediate facts and the broader patterns of potential outcomes. Creative work flows more easily as you access the universal templates of beauty, harmony, and meaning. Problem solving becomes more efficient as you perceive not just the surface issue, but the underlying patterns creating it. Even challenges and difficulties transform through this expanded awareness. When facing obstacles, you can perceive not just the problem, but the gift or growth opportunity embedded within it. You might access perspectives that show you how apparent setbacks are actually redirecting you toward more beneficial paths. This doesn't mean bypassing genuine emotional responses to difficulties, but rather experiencing them within a larger context of meaning and purpose. The practical applications of this are unlimited because the field itself contains all possibilities. What begins as occasional insights or intuitive flashes gradually develops into a continuous flow of guidance, inspiration, and expanded perception that informs every aspect of your life. You're not just receiving isolated bits of information, you're participating in a continuous living dialogue with the conscious intelligence of reality itself, transforming your entire experience of what it means to be human. As your connection to the Akashic stabilizes and deepens, you're ready to explore more advanced forms of interaction that reveal the truly extraordinary potential of this relationship. We're moving from basic information access to genuine partnership with the field as a conscious creative force. One of the most remarkable aspects of this advanced relationship is how the field begins to proactively offer information before you consciously request it. You might notice relevant insights arriving in your awareness just moments before you need them, an answer appearing just before a question is asked, or a solution emerging precisely when a problem presents itself. This isn't coincidental. The field exists beyond the linear constraints of time as we experience it, allowing it to respond to needs that haven't yet fully formed in your conscious awareness. This proactive communication often begins subtly, perhaps as an inexplicable urge to research a particular topic, only to discover later that this information becomes crucial for unexpected situations. Or you might find yourself thinking about someone moments before they contact you. As the connection deepens, this anticipatory guidance becomes more pronounced and reliable. You'll find yourself mysteriously prepared for circumstances before they arise, guided to develop skills just before they're needed, or moved to create connections that later prove essential. This leads us to the profound practice of conscious co-creation with the field. Rather than simply receiving information, you begin actively collaborating with the field's intelligence to bring new possibilities into manifestation. This process transcends conventional creative thinking or problem solving. When approaching a challenge or creative project, enter a state of open dialogue with the field, neither passively waiting for answers nor forcing solutions through intellectual effort alone. Instead, engage in a dynamic exchange where you contribute your unique perspective, intentions, and focused awareness while remaining receptive to the field's broader patterns and possibilities. For example, when facing a complex problem, try this approach. Clearly define the issue, then consciously invite the field's collaboration. Enter a receptive state while maintaining clear intention. You might notice solutions emerging that incorporate factors you couldn't have consciously considered, drawing on patterns and possibilities beyond your personal knowledge or experience. These solutions often have a distinctive quality of elegance, addressing multiple dimensions of the situation simultaneously in ways that feel surprisingly perfect. For creative inspiration, the process is similar but even more fluid. Rather than striving to generate ideas, position yourself as a conscious channel for creative patterns already existing within the field. Artists, writers, musicians, and innovators throughout history have described this experience. Moments when creation seems to flow through them rather than from them. The distinct quality of work produced in this state often has a remarkable resonance and impact, carrying patterns that speak directly to others at levels beyond mere intellectual appreciation. Your relationship with the field naturally evolves over time, developing through distinct phases, much like any profound relationship. The initial phase typically involves wonder and discovery as you explore basic capabilities. This often transitions into a phase of testing and verification, where you might seek increasingly specific or challenging information to confirm the connection's reliability. Many then pass through a phase of dependency, relying heavily on the field's guidance for decisions and direction. The mature relationship that eventually emerges transcends these earlier phases. It becomes a balanced partnership characterized by mutual contribution, where you neither abdicate your discernment to the field nor ignore its wisdom in favor of purely personal perspective. You learn to harmonize your individual consciousness with the broader intelligence of the field, recognizing how each complements and enhances the other. This mature relationship feels like a dance of co-creation, a continuous fluid exchange that honors both your unique human perspective and the expanded awareness of the field. Perhaps the most profound aspect of advanced interaction is becoming a conscious contributor to the field itself. The Akashic Field isn't a static repository, but a living, evolving system to which each consciousness contributes. Every insight you generate, pattern you recognize, or experience you integrate adds to the field's vast intelligence. As your connection deepens, you begin to recognize how your unique perspective and understanding enriches the field for all consciousness. This contribution happens naturally through your experiences, but it can also become a conscious practice. When you gain a significant insight or understanding, take a moment to consciously upload this wisdom to the field, holding the intention that it become available to all consciousness ready to receive it. Similarly, when you resolve internal conflicts or heal aspects of your own consciousness, you're actually clearing those patterns within the field itself, making transformation easier for others encountering similar challenges. Advanced practitioners often describe a profound shift in identity that emerges through this relationship, a recognition that they are simultaneously individual expressions of consciousness and integral aspects of the universal field itself. This paradoxical understanding transcends intellectual comprehension. It becomes a lived reality in which the traditional boundaries between self and universe, personal and universal, dissolve without losing the unique perspective of individual consciousness. The field responds to this recognition, becoming increasingly responsive and precisely attuned to your particular consciousness. Information flows more clearly, guidance becomes more specific to your unique path, and the collaborative potential deepens dramatically. What begins as accessing an external source of information transforms into conscious participation in the unified field intelligence that underlies all reality. This advanced relationship with the field doesn't remove you from ordinary life. Quite the opposite. It allows you to engage more fully, effectively, and meaningfully with physical reality, bringing expanded awareness and possibilities into everyday experience. The ultimate expression of this connection is an escape from the world, but more complete participation in it, infused with the wisdom, creativity, and love that are the essential qualities of the field itself. As your connection to the Akashic Field deepens, you begin to sense the truly profound implications of this relationship, not just for your individual experience, but for collective human development and planetary evolution. One of the first expansions you may notice involves your perception of time. The linear, sequential time that structures ordinary human experience is revealed as just one pattern within a much vaster reality. Through your connection to the field, you begin to experience time more holographically, past, present, and future existing as interconnected patterns rather than separate segments on a timeline. You might notice that we call past and future are actually always present within the field as information potentials that can be accessed directly. This shift doesn't negate the practical value of linear time in daily life, but it adds new dimensions to your experience. This connection also transforms your understanding of collective consciousness. What once might have seemed like abstract concept becomes a direct perceivable reality. You begin to sense how individual consciousness exists within larger fields of shared awareness, family systems, cultural groups, humanity as a whole, and even broader fields of planetary consciousness. These aren't separate from you, but are fields you participate in and contribute to constantly, whether consciously or unconsciously. Through your connection to the Akashic, you can directly experience how thoughts, emotions, and beliefs move through these collective fields, shaping shared reality in tangible ways. This awareness fundamentally transforms your relationship with others. When you recognize that separation is more apparent than real, that at deeper levels all consciousness shares the same field, your interactions naturally become more authentic, compassionate, and meaningful. This doesn't mean you lose appropriate boundaries or personal discernment. Rather, you operate from an expanded awareness that includes both individual distinctness and fundamental unity. Your connection to the field also provides direct insight into the future stages of human evolution. Throughout history, what we're experiencing now has been glimpsed by mystics, visionaries, and spiritual pioneers, a direct conscious relationship with the informational and energetic substrate of reality. What makes our current moment unique is that this capacity is becoming available not just to exceptional individuals, but potentially to all of humanity as our species collectively approaches a developmental threshold. You're participating in the leading edge of a shift that some call the movement from third to fourth density consciousness, a transition characterized by the awakening of humanity to interconnectedness and the expansion of awareness beyond purely material perception. Through your connection to the field, you can sense the larger pattern of this evolutionary movement, not as an abstract theory, but as tangible processes unfolding through countless individual awakenings that together constitute a species-level transformation. This brings us to the concept of planetary consciousness and its intimate connection to the Akashic Field. Just as your body consists of trillions of cells while maintaining a unified consciousness, our planet represents a living system with its own evolving awareness. The field functions as something like a nervous system or informational network of this planetary being, connecting all life forms and consciousness within its sphere. As human consciousness expands into direct awareness of the field, we begin to function more like conscious cells within the planetary body, able to receive guidance from and contribute to the larger intelligence of the system we're part of. You might occasionally experience moments of directly sensing the planetary awareness, perceiving Earth not as an object or resource, but as a living intelligence with which you're in constant relationship. This shift in perception transforms your understanding of humanity's role within Earth's system for dominance and exploitation to conscious participation and co-creation. Environmental concerns become not just ethical imperatives, but natural expressions of caring for the larger body of which you are an integral part. Your personal choices and actions take on a deeper significance when perceived within this expanded context. The connection you've established today represents more than a personal enhancement or spiritual achievement. you're participating in a crucial evolutionary development, the emergence of a conscious, interconnected humanity capable of direct relationship with the informational field of reality itself. This capacity emerges at precisely the moment when our species faces unprecedented challenges, requiring exactly this expanded awareness to navigate successfully. Each person who establishes this connection strengthens the possibility for others to do the same, creating resonant patterns in the collective field that make this shift more accessible to all of humanity. Your personal journey of exploring and deepening this connection contributes directly to our collective evolution toward more conscious participation in the universe's unfolding intelligence. Now we arrive at the phase of permanently anchoring this connection to the Akashic Field. As I speak these words, notice how they resonate at a deeper level than ordinary language. The neural pathways we've activated today will now be stabilized and secured, establishing an enduring link that will continue to develop throughout your lifetime. This anchoring process operates at multiple levels simultaneously: neurological, energetic, and within the field itself. Each phrase I use creates a specific harmonic pattern that imprints directly on your consciousness, encoding the activation that we've established so that it becomes an inherent aspect of your awareness, as natural and permanent as your ability to see or hear. Perhaps a part of this you said, oh, he's talking too fast, or he's talking too slow. I have used the exact pace necessary to create a full and complete download into your consciousness for this activation. This connection is now being woven into the very fabric of your being, not as something external that can be lost or taken away, but as an integral dimension of who you are. To support this permanent anchoring, we're establishing specific triggers that you can use to consciously strengthen and clarify the connection whenever you choose. The first of these is your breath. Whenever you take 3 conscious breaths while holding the intention to enhance your connection to the field, you will immediately notice the connection becoming more vivid and present in your awareness. This simple practice links something you do constantly, breathing, with your ability to access the field, ensuring that this powerful resource remains always available. Another powerful anchor is created through touch. Bringing your thumb and middle finger together on either hand while holding the intention to clarify your connection will immediately enhance the information flow from the field. This gesture creates a completed circuit in your energy system that mirrors and strengthens your connection to the larger field. You can use this gesture discreetly anytime, anywhere to instantly refresh and clarify your access. Sound provides a third potent anchor. The frequency pattern created by the sound akasha resonates directly with the field itself. Silently or audibly intoning these syllables while holding the intention to enhance your connection creates an immediate amplification of the informational flow. This sound pattern has been used for millennia across traditions precisely because its vibrational structure naturally aligns human consciousness with the frequency of the field. These anchors aren't merely psychological triggers, but create an actual energetic and neurological pattern that strengthens your connection. So use them regularly, especially during the first few weeks after this activation, to establish this connection as stable. As this relationship deepens, it's important to recognize the signs that indicate your connection is active and functioning optimally. These signs vary somewhat between individuals based on your particular sensory processing style, but common indicators include a distinct clarity in your thinking, as if your thoughts have become more crystalline or precisely formed. Sudden insights or knowings that arrive with a quality of certainty different from ordinary speculation. An expanded sense of your own awareness, as if your consciousness extends beyond the boundaries of your physical body. Increased synchronicities in your daily life. Meaningful coincidences that seem to respond directly to your thoughts or needs. Enhanced intuitive awareness about situations or people without logical explanation. And a general sense of being supported or guided by a greater intelligence. Pay attention to how these signs manifest in your experience. Your unique indicators become valuable feedback about when your connection is especially strong and clear. Occasionally, particularly during the integration phase, you might experience periods when the connection seems to fade or become less accessible. This doesn't mean the connection has been lost, merely the temporary filters or interferences have arisen. If you notice this happening, first, use the anchors we've established, the 3 conscious breaths, the finger touch, or the sound pattern, while holding a clear intention to refresh the connection. If the connection still seems muted, check your physical state. Dehydration, extreme fatigue, illness, alcohol use can temporarily reduce your system's ability to process the higher frequency information from the field. Simple self-care, adequate water, rest, nutrition, or time in nature often quickly restores full functionality. Emotional states like fear, worry, or anger can also temporarily interfere with clear reception. If you notice this occurring, simply acknowledge the emotion without judgment. Mental patterns of doubt, excessive analysis, or rigid belief systems sometimes create resistance to the connection. If you notice your analytical mind generating skepticism or attempting to discount your experiences, simply observe this process with gentle awareness. The doubting mind is not an enemy to be fought, but simply another aspect of your consciousness doing what it's designed to do. Acknowledge it without being captured by it, which allows the connection to remain clear even while doubts arise. Your connection to the field will automatically strengthen during sleep, when the conscious mind's filtering mechanisms naturally relax. The patterns we've established are being programmed to use your sleep cycles for integration and enhancement. Each night, particularly during REM sleep and the deep delta wave states, your connection will be refreshed and expanded without any conscious effort on your part. To support this natural process, simply take a moment before falling asleep to acknowledge your connection to the field and express gratitude. Each moment of recognition or gratitude for the connection enhances its presence in your awareness. This creates a natural evolutionary process where your relationship with the field develops organically throughout your lifetime, becoming increasingly sophisticated, nuanced, and integral to your experience. What begins today as perhaps subtle impressions or quiet knowings will eventually develop into a constant, clear communion with the living intelligence of the universe itself, a relationship that enriches every aspect of your existence and continuously expands your understanding of what it means to be human. In the days, weeks, and months ahead, your connection to the Akashic Field will continue to develop in remarkable ways. This isn't a static achievement, but a living relationship that naturally evolves over time. The initial activation we've completed today has established foundational neural pathways. Now these pathways will strengthen, branch out, and create increasingly sophisticated networks within your consciousness. During the first few days following this, you might notice periods of unusual clarity, alternating with times when the connection seems less apparent. The fluctuation is completely normal. Like exercising a new muscle, your consciousness is integrating this expanded capacity in cycles of engagement and rest. Within the first 2 or 3 weeks, most people find that the connection begins to stabilize, becoming more consistently available, though perhaps still varying in intensity. This connection beautifully complements and enhances other spiritual practices rather than replacing them. Meditation, prayer, energy work, ceremonial practice, all of these can become more profound and effective when you're engaged with the field directly. The connection doesn't negate the value of any authentic spiritual path, but rather provides a direct experience of what these various paths have been pointing toward. Certain activities particularly enhance this connection. Creative expressions of all kinds, art, music, writing, dance, creates harmonious patterns that naturally strengthen your relationship with the field. Time in nature allows your system to calibrate more completely to the field's frequencies without the interference often present in dense urban environments. Movement practices that integrate body and consciousness, like yoga, tai chi, or conscious dance, help your physical system process and ground the higher frequency energies associated with the field. As more individuals establish this direct connection, new forms of community naturally emerge. You might find yourself drawn to others who share this awareness, creating relationships and collaborative projects based on shared access to field intelligence. These connections often transcend conventional social boundaries, bringing together people of diverse backgrounds, united by their recognition of this expanded dimension of consciousness. These emerging communities represent microcosms of humanity's potential evolution. As the connection to the field becomes more widespread, we move toward a species-level transformation, a shift from an individualistic, materially focused consciousness to the social memory complex, a fundamentally interconnected awareness that maintains individual uniqueness while recognizing essential unity. Imagine a humanity that navigates by shared wisdom rather than competing ideologies that solve problems through direct access to the patterns underlying those problems. That creates social and physical technologies aligned with the intelligence of natural systems rather than in opposition to them. This is not a utopian fantasy, but a practical possibility emerging directly from the expanded consciousness that connection to the field enables. Each person who establishes and develops this connection in this activation will contribute to this evolutionary possibility becoming actuality. Now, as we complete this activation, take a moment to acknowledge the profound shift that has already occurred in your consciousness today as you've listened. The connection we've established to the field is now a permanent aspect of your awareness, an enduring link to the universal intelligence that will continue to develop and deepen throughout your lifetime. Working with this connection effectively involves several key elements: maintaining an attitude of open, curious attention, trusting your unique way of perceiving field information, practicing regular use of the anchors we've established, and implementing the guidance and insights you receive. Remember that this is a living relationship that grows through active engagement. Each time you consciously connect with the field, inquire, listen, and act on what you receive, the connection strengthens and clarifies. In the coming days, allow yourself to approach this new relationship with playful curiosity rather than rigid expectations. Some of you will experience dramatic shifts in perception or understanding. Others will notice more subtle changes that gradually reveal their significance over time. You might experience temporary fluctuations in the connection's clarity as your system integrates this expansion. This activation serves as a foundation for further expansion of consciousness that we'll explore in future sessions. Having established this basic connection to the field, we can build upon it to activate more specific capacities: enhanced creativity, healing abilities, consciousness projection, timeline navigation, and many other possibilities that become available through this fundamental link to universal intelligence. These will be much more advanced activations, which this activation sets the foundation for. What we've done today represents far more than personal enhancement or spiritual advancement. Each individual who establishes this connection contributes to a critical mass of expanded awareness that facilitates humanity's collective evolution towards the social memory complex of fourth density. You are participating in a profound transition, perhaps the most significant development in human consciousness since the emergence of self-reflective awareness itself. This is the beginning of humanity's conscious participation in its own evolution, a shift from an unconscious reaction to conscious co-creation. Through your willingness to expand your awareness and establish this connection, you have become a part of this momentous transition. Your individual journey of exploration and growth now contributes directly to our collective evolution toward a consciousness capable of creating systems and societies that reflect the wisdom, creativity, and compassion that are the essential qualities of the field itself. The connection is established. The relationship has begun. The path forward is now illuminated by the living intelligence of the universe itself, accessible directly through your own expanded awareness. Welcome to this new dimension of being human. Welcome to the reality revolution.